We're going to show you in this video we're going to show you where public speaking fear comes from, and then show you some ways to help you reduce that public speaking fear, some ways that we've kind of found that help people reduce public speaking fear pretty dramatically. Well, the first thing you have to understand about public speaking fear is that public speaking is a skill. It's something that is learned, just like any other skill, just like playing golf or driving a car or riding a bicycle. It's something that you learn over time. Some people just learn through trial and error, and that's a very slow way to kind of learn, but you get a much better result if you go through a quick little 4-step process. So let's kind of go through the things that we show people how to do in our 2-day public speaking class, and you can kind of go through this too to help you reduce your public speaking fear. Step number one in really developing any skill, not just public speaking, this is any skill, is you have to start with the right attitude. We find that when people, for instance, come to our public speaking classes, if they walk in going, man, I can't wait to learn public speaking, they're going to do a whole lot better than somebody going, I'm not sure if this is really going to work, so I'm going to test it first, right? So basically, if you start off with the right attitude, you typically get a much better result. The second thing that we start looking for is we start looking for information or knowledge. If we can identify things that we can do to help us be better at public speaking, that's a big part of the process. But a lot of times people overemphasize this particular part of the process, and they think that the more information that we have, the more knowledge that we have, the more skilled that we're going to be. When in reality, that doesn't necessarily work out that way. Most of the time, what will tend to happen is folks will get kind of paralysis by analysis. They get so much information that they don't really do anything. And so you want to kind of be careful about that. We tell our kids, knowledge is power, but in reality, it's not knowledge that makes us powerful, it's the application of knowledge that makes us powerful. And so basically, step number 3 is being able to take that information and put it into practice. And if you practice in a positive way, if you practice in a way that you get a positive result, then you'll move on to step number 4, which is developing that skill set. So basically, start with the right attitude, get some information, put that information into practice. If there is a success there, then that's where we start to develop that skill set. By the way, this is the same process that we go through when we're 5 years old and we learn to ride a bicycle. It's the same process that we go through when we're 15 years old and we're learning to drive a car. We wouldn't tell a 5-year-old kid, hey, you just don't have the talent for riding a bicycle. Basically, we keep practicing until we get it right. The same way with a 15-year-old kid learning to drive a car. You just don't have talent for driving a car. Now, there are some kids that are better at riding a bicycle than others, and there are some teenagers that are better than others at driving cars. But in reality, we all have the potential to be good at those skill sets, and you have the potential to be good at public speaking as well, at delivering presentations. So let me give you an example of this in real life. Let's say you wanted to learn how to fly an airplane, and you've got 30 days to learn how to fly an airplane. It's important to your job, your career, your future, that you become a pilot in 30 days. And there are 2 different ways that you can learn to fly. You can do it the traditional education route, which is go to ground school, spend a ton of time in just learning the knowledge. That's what most people do when they go to universities and colleges and that kind of thing. Just get bombarded with knowledge. And if we go that route, let's say we want to learn everything. So we're going to spend the next 30 days, we're going to spend like 10 hours a day for 30 days. At the end of the 30th day, you're going to have 300 hours of knowledge, but no application, right? So at the end of the 30th day, after you've read all your books, you get into the cockpit of the airplane to try to fly it for the first time, and you look up at the console and it doesn't look anything like your car. It doesn't smell anything like your car. So you're going to start to get even more and more nervous. You're probably going to be very timid or very nervous about taking that plane off the ground because you haven't really developed a skill yet. And that's what happens to a lot of people when they focus on just getting the next public speaking tip. When they just watch the videos, when they just are getting information from people without actually applying it in real life first. A better way to learn how to fly an airplane is to get a flight instructor, someone who's trained, 200 people how to fly an airplane. And that flight instructor will put you in ground school for some time, but not bombard you with a bunch of information. Give you a little bit of information and then have you get into the cockpit and apply it. So, and this whole process the flight instructor might spend maybe an hour every other day for 30 days. So at the end of the 30th day, you've got 15 hours worth of actual flight time. And really, after about the first 5 or 6 hours, you're doing everything yourself anyway. You're doing the takeoffs, the landings, the turns, the stalls. The flight instructor is kind of sitting back or sitting next to you in case there's an emergency so that you feel more comfortable. But at the end of the 30th day, after you've had your 15 hours worth of flight time, the flight instructor looks at you and says, hey, I've trained about 200 different pilots, and you're as good as any of them I've ever trained. Go ahead and land the plane. You take the plane down, you have a nice soft landing, and this time the flight instructor kind of looks at you and says, hey, okay, now it's time for your first solo. Now you're probably going to be really nervous during that first solo, but you do it because you've done it before. You take the airplane up, you circle around the airfield a couple times, come in for a nice soft landing, and when you land though, now you're ecstatic. Now that confidence is shooting through the roof, and that's really what happens to folks in our 2-day public speaking class. Through the first kind of day and a half or so of the public speaking training, we take people through that step-by-step process so that they learn along the way, that they're gaining that confidence along the way. And then when we start to put it together at the end, and they have that first kind of solo experience, their confidence really shoots through the roof. That's one of the reasons why we have so many kind of 5-star ratings on our programs. Now, we're not done yet. We still have video number 3, and on video number 3, we're going to take you through some different options that you have. Not only our stuff, but other people's stuff. What are the different things that are out there that help people reduce public speaking fear? Because if you can find out what some of those different things are and what some of those options are, and identify what the pros and cons are of each, it makes it a little easier to kind of make a buying decision.